Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back. We're going to be reading the rest of part 2, talking about the outside world. We're going to read chapters 9 and 10 of part 2. So it's broken up into 8 parts with 5 chapters in each part, and each part is focusing on a different aspect. So part 2, we're focusing on the outside world of chapters 6 through 10. So we read the first 3 in part 1 in the last video, and we're going to read the last 2 chapters in this video. They are a bit longer, so I spread it out in that way. So chapter 9 is titled The Power of Creation. And again, we're reading Living Untethered by Michael Singer. I just want to make that clear so that I'm definitely crediting where this is coming from. All right, so let's go ahead and just get right into it. The power of creation. Now that we've seen how ordinary stars create the lighter elements of our world, we can move on to an even more fascinating topic: how the heavier elements on the periodic table are created, like gold, platinum, and silver. The heavier elements are all those with an atomic number greater than iron, or 26. Iron forms the dividing line because it absorbs more heat than it releases during fusion. As such, iron doesn't emanate enough heat energy to stop a star from collapsing. Unless the original star was exceptionally large to begin with, or a red supergiant, it will finally die when it gets to an iron core. What happens during the death of a red supergiant star is one of the most amazing events in the known universe, and it provides the energy source needed to create the heavier elements. If the star is large enough before its collapse, the intensity of the collapse can actually crush the atoms in the core. Instead of fusing the iron atoms together, this tremendous force pushes their electrons into the nucleus itself. Since electrons are negatively charged and the protons in the nucleus are positively charged, they attract each other and form neutrons, which have no charge. Once this happens, all that is left of the iron core is a mass of tightly packed neutrons. There are no atoms left, no electrons, and no protons. The intensity of the collapse of this large star down to just neutrons has destroyed the structure of matter as we know it. What is left is a neutron star, and it is tiny in size but enormous in mass. Neutron stars are physically about the size of a city, but have a mass that is more than 300,000 times heavier than the planet Earth. The density of a neutron star is so great that if you brought a teaspoon of it down to Earth, it would weigh 12 trillion pounds. The amount of energy released by the collapsing of the star's core down to just neutrons is so powerful that it creates a colossal explosion called a supernova. This explosion is so enormous that a single supernova emits more light than the combined light of all the billions of stars in its galaxy put together. It is the brightest, most powerful explosion we have discovered in our universe. As it turns out, the enormous energy force generated during a supernova explosion is precisely what is needed to create the rest of the elements we interact with each day. What the force of gravity was unable to do during the creation of the lighter elements, the massive explosion of a supernova is able to do: fuse the heavier elements. The next time you look at your gold wedding ring or open a tin can, reflect on the fact that these elements required the combined power of billions of stars to come into existence. You are surrounded by the myriad objects you interact with each day. There are giant skyscrapers and tiny paper clips that effortlessly come in through your senses. At their root, every single one of these objects is made of atoms. You have just taken the time to understand where all these atoms come from and how you did not create them. They were created in the stars. This should serve to humble you and leave you in awe of the power of creation manifesting before you. Hopefully, this deep sense of humility and awe will assist you on your spiritual journey toward freedom and liberation. So if you read or listened to my last segment in this chapter or this part of the book, the author is very much trying to give us a mental picture, a visual image of just how we are all part of the stars, how we are all created from the same elements, and how everything in our outside world is visible to us because of the reflection of light and because of the elements which create the stars and which create all that he's mentioned. So it is a more scientific aspect that we are looking at right now, but I do think it is also actually very interesting and important to understand. It really is humbling to realize just how much of an effort that does take. All right, so chapter 10, it's not personal. We just explored where the world around you comes from. It began with the Big Bang, and then all the different types of elements were created through the process of atomic fusion. When stars explode at death, all the matter that built up in their outer shell gets blown out into interstellar space. Carbon, oxygen, silicon, gold, and silver were all floating around us as clouds of elements in space. Then gravity pulled them together to form the planets. This is how the planet Earth formed with its 92 natural elements, all of which were forged in the stars. This process has gone on for over 13 billion years, and everything you interact with each day is composed of this stardust, including your body. This is the truth, and we should remember and contemplate it regularly. Let's come back to where we started this discussion. We begin with the fact that there is always a moment in front of you. Just open your eyes, and there it is. Where did it come from? Now we know. The moment in front of you came from the stars. The atoms were baked together in the solar furnaces, then pulled together into this mass we call Earth. You studied what happened next in science class. The elements joined together to form stable molecules such as H2O, based on the laws of electromagnetism. Because of the interaction of these laws, there's water in the oceans. As other, more complex molecules formed, they created the primordial soup from which living organisms are found and formed. Every part of every cell in your body is composed of elements created in the stars billions of years ago. Sorry, my son is out in the living room playing. They're off school today for Labor Day. This explains where your body came from, but it does not explain where you came from. You are not made of atoms. You are the consciousness that is aware of the objects that are made of atoms. Your body may be the result of the long process of Darwinian evolution, but what about you in there? Where did you come from? How did you get in there? And why is it the way it is in there? The natural sciences may explain the outside, but what about the inside? This is exactly what we will be exploring in the coming chapters. What science has discovered about reality should give you more respect for creation, not less. The fact that we are able to explain these phenomenal events that took place should leave you with a sense of awe. Just look at how it ended up after 13.8 billion years. Dare to look at what's in front of you in this light. Now that you know where it all came from, pay attention. What's in front of you is a very holy thing, all of it. Now consider whether this process of creation had anything to do with you. Were you around causing any of this to happen? Will you be around for the next billion years causing all that is going to happen, all that is going to take place everywhere? Of course not. The universe is a phenomenal system of cause and effect. What was causes what is. What is causes what will be. This has been happening from the beginning of time throughout the universe. Every single moment in front of you took billions of years with everything happening exactly like it did to manifest as it is. To fully understand what this means, it helps to look at a simple example from your family history. If your great-great-great-grandmother didn't meet your great-great-great-grandfather, you're not here. That's the simple truth. Let's take a moment to tell a story of how they met so you can see how dependent everything is on everything else. The story begins all the way back with the dinosaurs. After a fierce storm in what is now South Central Florida, there was a big dinosaur lumbering around. When this dinosaur put its big footprint down into the wet soil, it caused a gigantic imprint in the mud. Over time, rainwater accumulated in this deep imprint, and the earth began to erode around it. Eventually, the water area grew so large it became what we now call Lake Okeechobee. Millions of years later, the Miami tribe settled by that lake because of the fresh water, fish, and other animals. Centuries passed, and the Spanish settlers built a small town on the edge of the lake. Your great-great-great-grandmother was a descendant of the Miami, and your great-great-great-grandfather was visiting the small Spanish settlement. One day, while it was pouring rain around the lake, your great-great-great-grandfather was drinking in the local saloon. He was so drunk when he stepped out of the saloon, he never noticed your great-great-great-grandmother walking by sopping wet. Just as he stumbled down the stairs, falling drunk to the ground, your great-great-great-grandmother slipped in the mud and fell right on top of him. Well, they looked at each other, started laughing, and it was love at first sight. The rest is history. In other words, if the dinosaur hadn't walked there millions of years ago, and if the Miami tribe hadn't settled there, and if the Spaniards hadn't built a town there, and if it hadn't been raining that day, and if Grandpa hadn't fallen down drunk at the exact spot where your grandma slipped in the mud, you're not there, and neither are a lot of other things. Every single thing is the result of every single thing that ever happened throughout space and time. You're not the doer. You are the experiencer of reality. If this is true, and it is, then it's pretty silly to think it took 13.8 billion years for this moment to get here, and every single thing had to happen exactly as it did, but I don't like it. That's funny. It's like saying that you don't like that Saturn has rings. Now do you see why we took the time to explore where what's in front of you came from? It has nothing to do with you. It is the result of trillions of factors that caused it to be the way it is. This is our first encounter of what surrender and acceptance really mean. You don't surrender the outside world, you totally accept it. What you surrender is your personal made-up judgment of it. If you were asked whether it's okay with you that Saturn has rings, you would probably look very puzzled and say, "What's it got to do with me?" That's a crazy question. The truth is, every single thing is that way. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the forces that caused it to be the way it is. And those forces stretch back billions of years. The total acceptance of this truth is surrender. You must let go of the part of you that thinks it has the right to like and dislike the result of billions of years of interactions. Surrender is letting go of the part of you that is not living the truth. That is true surrender. Eventually, you will come to realize that the moment in front of you is a very holy thing. Our scientific exploration of where that moment came from is actually very spiritual. Quantum physicists are exploring how the entire universe is emanating from an omnipresent, undifferentiated field of energy, the quantum field. They are showing us how everything is made of light. That used to be a strictly spiritual concept. Our scientists and our priests, they are teaching us how the underlying force of creation created creation. Science shows us that every moment before us is worthy of great respect. A spiritual person understands these truths, ingrains them into their being, and lives their life accordingly. If it took 13.8 billion years for the moment in front of you to get there, and it took 13.8 billion of years for you to end up in front of that moment, every moment is indeed a match made in heaven. Nobody else is standing there experiencing exactly what you're experiencing. Truth is, no one ever did, and no one ever will. That exact moment will never be here again. All moments just keep passing through time and space. You are being given a unique show that took billions of years to create. It's right in front of you, and you're complaining about it. We all think we have very good reason to complain. The intention of this journey we are on together is to take away those reasons, whatever they are. The moment in front of you is a gift from creation. There are shapes, colors, and sounds. There are people and lots of things to do. It's not that way on Mars, nor on any place we have seen thus far in studies of the universe. But we don't live our lives with a constant sense of awe and appreciation. That's why these discussions about cosmology and quantum physics are spiritual. They are taking away your right to make everything personal when it's not personal. Your consciousness may be aware of the moment in front of you, but you did not create that moment. You are simply being given this wonderful opportunity to experience a moment in creation. It took billions of years to get here. Be sure you don't miss it. People make such a big deal out of science versus God, as if the two are at odds with each other. The real problem is that people don't truly believe in either. If you believed that science explains the creation of all things, you would live your life with a constant awareness that everything you are interacting with is emanating from the quantum field, pulling itself together into atoms and molecules, then appearing as the form in front of you. You would not like or dislike it, you would be in awe of it. Likewise, if you really believed God was the creator of all things, you would live in awe and appreciation of the marvel of the divine creation. You would not dislike it. You would be blown away that it even exists. You live in a world where a seed falls on the ground and it has a built-in chemist that knows how to break down the molecules of dirt and water, mix them with sunlight, and combine those substances into a corn stalk or a tree. You're taught that this intelligent chemist is the complex DNA molecule. Where did this amazing molecular structure come from? All its elements were forged in the stars and then naturally got pulled together into the DNA structure by the four fundamental forces: gravity, electromagnetism, and the strong and weak nuclear forces. Human intelligence had nothing to do with the creation of DNA. Yet, DNA is responsible for all the plant and animal life on Earth. We live in a world that is so perfect it should constantly blow our minds. But we are lost in making it all personal, that we miss both the greatness of science and the greatness of God. We begin this exploration by asking what it's like for you in there. You know you're in there. What is the nature of the experiences you're having? To answer this, we explored the origin and the nature of the outside world in which you live. Hopefully you have more respect and appreciation for it right now. That moment in front of you is special. You might want to practice appreciating it and notice the effect that it has on your life. Next, we're going to work with the mind and its thoughts, then the heart and its emotions. They don't come in through your senses, but they are certainly things you experience. As we comb through each layer, it's going to become easier and easier to let go, to accept and surrender. Remember, you are not surrendering life. You are surrendering your resistance to life. We can use the term mindfulness to mean that you are always conscious of what is really going on around you and inside you. You're not just conscious of the appearance of things, but also their true nature. Where they come from, why are they the way they are, and what it took for them to manifest before you. Mindfulness is a natural, effortless process once you let go of personal distractions. Instead of thinking that the moment in front of you has to be a certain way, you start thinking that it's pretty awesome the way it is. In fact, it's amazing that it even exists. From now on, everywhere you look and everything you interact with, be sure to say thank you. And be sure to pay tribute to the stars. They are not just romantic things twinkling in the night sky. They are the furnaces of the universe. They have created everything for you. Can you thank them? Can you appreciate this truth and understand that you didn't do anything to deserve the trees, the oceans, and the sky? You don't even know where you came from. You're just in there experiencing this amazing gift unfolding before you. This is spirituality, coming into harmony with reality instead of your personal self. All right, so that concludes part 2, chapters 6 through 10. And in part 3, we are going to be talking about the mind. So I hope that you have enjoyed this so far. I know, again, that chapter was a little bit more scientific for people that are not a fan of that or have a hard time correlating or connecting. I hope that the author did give us some examples that help you understand a bit better. I know that it did help me. I'm not a huge science buff. I don't have a great interest for it, but I did find that very interesting. So we will stop right there for today. And until next time, please take care of yourself. Please take care of those around you. I will see you again very soon for part 3 of Living Untethered. Take care. Bye-bye.